Hello. Sorry, I should have come to you with my video on the extraordinary UN Security Council session that convened last night to discuss Israeli terrorism in Qatar. But I couldn't because I had to attend a commitment at my son's school. Though the Security Council has now been reduced to a talking shop and nothing more, last night's goings on provided plenty of entertainment, as the US, the UK, and Israeli terrorists were further exposed in a brutal fashion. Qatar was effectively abandoned and humiliated by its Western backers, but it was the Pakistani ambassador who to me stole the show, who took it upon himself to expose the dirty nexus between Israeli terrorists and their Western apologists. His words, not mine, namely the US and the UK. Let's now explain to you what exactly happened. Aside from other usual suspects, the Security Council had also invited the Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman bin Jassim bin Jaber Al Thani and Jordanian Deputy Prime Minister Ayman Safadi, among others. The Qatari Prime Minister made a fool of himself by first speaking in Arabic when he is an eloquent speaker in English. He could have left a powerful impact by speaking in English, but he chose to speak in Arabic and his translator didn't do justice to his speech. I say he made a fool of himself because he had the opportunity to expose the American lies, but he didn't highlight that. I will explain to you what that lies were in a bit. But let's look at the speech made by the US woman. She started her sentence by talking about unilateral bombing of Qatar, but deliberately didn't mention Israel so that the terrorist settler colony is left off the hook for its war crimes. Either she thought people are fools or she simply couldn't care about it much. In her very second sentence, she gave Israel a clean sheet for its flagrant violation of international law. Just watch her short speech here.
Unilateral bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation working very hard and bravely taking risks alongside the United States to broker peace, does not advance Israel's or America's goals. That said, it is inappropriate for any member to use this to question Israel's commitment to bringing their hostages home. Eliminating Hamas, which has profited off of the misery of those living in Gaza, is a worthy goal. Hamas and other terrorists must have no future in Gaza. Only after the terror group's removal can Gaza advance toward a better future, and can Israel be secure within its own borders. Colleagues, President Trump wants all of the hostages, living and dead, released, and this war to end now. And it will end if Hamas disarms, releases the hostages, and surrenders. But right now, Hamas continues to threaten Israel's security and deliberately prolong the anguish. That anguish must come to an end. Hamas must immediately release the remaining hostages, including all of those hostages brutally murdered. Prime Minister Netanyahu reiterated to President Trump his desire for peace when the two spoke yesterday. Notwithstanding the unfortunate nature of this incident, President Trump believes it could serve as an opportunity for peace. The President assured the Emir, as well as the Prime Minister of Qatar, that such a thing would not happen again on their soil.
And the Qatari media outlet Al Jazeera was excited that Israel faced rebuke even from the US for the first time. This explains why Qatar is being treated the way it is. If Al Jazeera is your international propaganda channel or whatever the media outlet, and this is how they report your humiliation, then God save you. The UK woman was no different. She used the opportunity to make 3 points. She condemned Israeli action once, but in a mild fashion, but quickly moved to express her anger on Hamas and the plight of Israeli hostages. Mind you, this was an emergency session to discuss the Israeli violation of international law by bombing a sovereign nation, Qatar. But see the bulk of the focus of this UK woman's speech. It's Hamas and hostages. And these clowns expect to be treated as respectable diplomats. and think that we should also take them seriously. Watch his speech here.
I'll make 3 points. First, let me underscore this from the outset. The United Kingdom stands in full and unwavering solidarity with Qatar and condemns Israel's strikes on Doha. These strikes are a flagrant violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar. They risk both further escalation across the region and setting back negotiations for a ceasefire. We offer our condolences to the families and friends of Qatari personnel who were tragically killed. Our thoughts are with their loved ones and with the injured. Qatar has long been a tireless broker for peace in the Middle East and beyond, and we commend the resolute commitment of His Highness the Emir to champion diplomacy and dialogue. So to reiterate, we wholly condemn the strikes on Qatar, which will do nothing to deliver peace in the Middle East or to help safeguard Israel's long-term security. My Prime Minister made this clear to President Herzog when they met yesterday. And like others, I welcome the clear message of support to Qatar that this Council has sent through our press statement today. Second, the UK has been clear that Hamas is a terrorist organisation, and we condemn the October 7 atrocities in the strongest terms. We reiterate that Hamas must release all the hostages, sign up to an immediate ceasefire deal, and commit to disarm. It can play no part in the future governance of Gaza. Third, with each day that passes, the hostages suffer in appalling conditions, and the people of Gaza endure starvation and repeated displacement. This week's evacuation orders across northern Gaza will worsen the humanitarian catastrophe. The Israeli government's decision to further escalate its offensive in Gaza is wrong, and today I reiterate that we urge Israel to reconsider immediately. We staunchly support the efforts of Qatar, the United States and Egypt to achieve a ceasefire in Gaza, to secure the release of the hostages and bring this conflict to an end. We urge all parties to re-engage meaningfully to reach a negotiated deal. We also need an urgent surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza. It is abhorrent that famine is unfolding in parts of Gaza City, and we need immediate action to prevent it from spreading further. Israel must lift all restrictions on aid and allow the UN to deliver life-saving aid at scale. President, the only way to achieve lasting peace and security for Palestinians and Israelis alike is through a political solution. The UK will continue to work with our partners to develop a framework for long-term peace consistent with a two-state solution. Thank you.
By the way, I forgot to mention to you that today's video is going to be slightly longer than usual, but I promise you wouldn't be disappointed. Trust me. As you saw the American woman repeating Trump's lies that Israel wouldn't bomb Qatar again. But I told you about terrorist Netanyahu's statement rejecting that very promise by Trump in my last video. You can watch it here. The Israeli chap in the UN, whose only qualification to get this job appears to be his uncouth nature and his ability to sound extremely annoying and nonsensical, he didn't waste any time to reject the US woman's claim by saying that Israel would bomb Qatar again. He said it on 3 different occasions within his speech. Here are they. I am deliberately not posting his full speech to respect your sanity.
But let me be clear. There is no immunity for terrorists. not for those who commit it, and not for those who enable it. Like Cain in the Bible, who was marked for the murder of his brother, so too are Hamas's leaders marked for their crimes. It doesn't matter where they hide, whether in the tunnel in Gaza or in a luxury hotel abroad. The mark of Cain is upon them. This strike sends a message that should echo across this chamber. There is no sanctuary for terrorists, not in Gaza, not in Tehran, not in Doha. There is no immunity for terrorists.
Now, the Qatari PM had the golden opportunity to call out the US lies, and he should have made a reference to the Israeli chap's rejection of the American position, stating that Israel wouldn't be allowed to bomb Qatar again. But he couldn't care much, and that to me was quite stupid, to be honest. Clearly, money doesn't bring intelligence or class. During his speech, the Israeli man also used the killing of Osama Bin Laden in Pakistan to justify his settler colonies' bombing of Qatar. He was basically arguing that if the US could do it in Pakistan, why wouldn't this settler colonies' rogue regime be allowed to do the same in Qatar? This appeared to irk the Pakistani ambassador, and rightly so, who refused to let the Israeli chap go without being countered. So he requested permission to rebut the Israeli guy, and this is the bit you have to watch the most. It's about 5 minutes in duration, but it's a must watch. Not only did he call out the terror activities unleashed by the rogue settler colony of Israel, but the Pakistani ambassador also didn't mince words in exposing the dubious role played by the likes of the US and the UK. The Pakistani ambassador referred to them as Israeli apologists. Enjoy the video.
I'm obliged to take the floor to respond to some comments. The representative of Israel perhaps did not listen attentively to all council members and other speakers in today's debate. And in our view, it is unacceptable, indeed ludicrous, for an aggressor, an occupier, a serial violator of UN Charter and international law, that is Israel, to abuse this chamber and disrespect the sanctity of this council. And this is not the first time. And by pointing fingers on others, baseless assertions primarily aimed at masking its own illegal actions and violations of international law. President, but that's not at all surprising. It is an occupier that does not listen to anyone, that does not pay heed to any advice, even from its friends, if there are any left, that refutes, and not just refutes, it threatens members of the international community, international media, international human rights and humanitarian organizations, doesn't listen to the ICJ or the ICC, and threatens the UN and its senior officials. And it does that with impunity, shielded by its apologists who time and again acquiesce in its illegal actions and defiance of the international community. And like all occupiers, despite being the aggressor, it feigns and plays the victim. But today it is totally exposed. President, This council has spent decades discussing the situation in the Middle East and the Palestinian question. Meeting after meeting, we devote hours to this agenda. It is not because of anyone else. It is because of Israel that refuses to vacate its illegal occupation and that blatantly violates the resolutions of this council. It's because of that we have these discussions. Israel also chose to refer to an unrelated incident and make misleading remarks regarding Pakistan in an effort to justify its own illegal actions and violations of international law. Pakistan's position on that incident has been clearly stated and is publicly available. The international community is well aware of Pakistan's frontline role and sacrifices in the international community's fight against terrorism. The entire world, including our partners, acknowledge that Al-Qaeda was largely decimated due to Pakistan's counterterrorism efforts. And we remain committed in this global, collective endeavor. We cannot accept insinuations from an irresponsible rogue state that is, in fact, the perpetrator of worst kind of state terrorism that we are witnessing in Gaza and, in fact, in the occupied Palestinian territories for decades. And we reject any false analogy, as has also been done by Qatar. For whatever way it interprets the statements in this council, the occupying power must go back and read carefully the statement issued by the Security Council today.
That's it from me. Oh yes, we have achieved another milestone by reaching 400,000 subscribers. This wouldn't be possible without your love and support. Thank you once again for everything. Thank you also for your support of our journalism on buymeacoffee.com and Patreon. If you too think that our journalism is worth supporting, then you too should consider becoming part of it. Details are there in the description of this video. In the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support independent journalism. God bless you all.